Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us at Sin City _IESR, at Kayle _Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. If you guys missed this show or want to review the show, don't worry. You can see us almost on any possible platform there is. I mean, we're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Deezer. I mean, we're in every possible corner. You go to iesportsradio.com/Sin City Sports. Check out my bio, check out the show, review our shows. Get involved. Reach out. Talk to us. We love talking to you guys. So we do have a little bit to talk about today. It's going to be a shorter show. I was getting a bit of a how-to from the man, the myth, the legend, Larry B himself, on how to continue optimizing this show and getting better, and he's doing a great job of promoting us and boosting viewers. I mean, we were gone for a month, came back, over 100 viewers. We were about 120, 130 last week. Excellent. Really appreciate folks who tune in. I know we're starting a little late, so it may be off kilter, but we're going to talk a little bit of Vegas Golden Knights, and we're going to hone in on our Las Vegas Raiders because the head coaching search and GM search are underway, and I'm going to give you guys as many details as I possibly can here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and sinners, welcome back to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us here on Sin City Sports. The easiest way to do it is go to our Twitter page. Twitter page is SinCity_IESR, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And right now, the hot button topic would be the main two sports that are underway, or not really underway. You still have the NFL going on. We have the playoffs going on, which is great. But the Golden Knights are off to a hot start. We're going to touch base on them here in a little bit. But that is one of the easiest ways to get a hold of us, guys, to interact with us. SinCity_IESR or my personal at Kayle_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. A shout out to our sponsors at Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, a jerky that's on a whole other planet. They've been a partner with us for a couple of years now. Really appreciate them. Vital Apparel, a brand that is not only a great fit, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use the IE Sports Radio or IESR code to get 15% off their comfortable, inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey. I believe in gym culture, guys. One of the reasons why I love that Joey gentleman who gets on and he says, hey, this is good etiquette, this is bad etiquette, calls people out, because there's some really, really arrogant people out there, man. Folks are just trying to get on a journey. I love that we're partnered with a apparel company that's really thinking of mental health when it comes to the gym. Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. herself, if you will, the director of Larry B. You know what I'm saying? His babysitter. Got to love that. She kicks ass, takes names. She's an entrepreneur. Got to give her all kinds of love. And then with that being said, we also have to thank our flagship channel, IE Sports Radio, where we get to do this lovely hobby for free, by the way. Like, Larry doesn't charge me. He just says, hey, I want you to talk about sports. Give some, give your name, give your face, image and likeness. I'm just kidding. No NIL here. But it's nice to get on here and talk about my favorite team, which is the Raiders, although they absolutely stab me in the back every single year. If you guys want to get a hold of us or want to check out our show, no big deal. You guys can go to follow us on X, IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at IE Sports Radio or iesportsradio.com. Check us out. If you miss a show, no big deal. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox, Deezer. We're on every platform you can ask for. To keep up with our show, like, follow, help the algorithms, help promote the show. It is free. I love doing this. It's something I like to do in my free time and when I'm not working or raising a child and trying to be the best husband I can be. So I have to be a miserable Raiders fan right now. Shout out to Taron Rodriguez as always. He's the greatest teammate there is. Chime in Vegas Thrill is a team from the Pro Volleyball Federation. FYI, the Thrill is 1-1, have 2 home games at Lee's Family Forum on Friday against the Omaha Supernovas and Sunday against the Orlando Valkyries. Thanks, Taryn, as always, man. You're always giving us the best updates when it comes to volleyball. Larry B chimed into the show. Let's go. The man, the myth, the legend himself, who's kind of showing me what the ropes a little bit. We're trying to make a little more efficient show, more streamlined with the banners and things you guys can kind of see and research. Another shout out to one last sponsor here, our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition. Raw Nutrition supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use promo code IESR for 10% off for your supplements. Or again, this is kind of fits in with Vital. You know, if you guys need, sometimes it's okay to supplement. It really is. The creatine, the protein, all that stuff. You obviously want to eat it the best you can through nutrition, but sometimes you're just on the go, or you may need to supplement it because you're just tired of cooking. That's a great way to go do it. Check out rawnutrition.com today. Use promo code IESR for 10% off. A lot to talk about today. You guys know how it is. Reach out to us at @SinCity_ISR. Let us know how the show goes. Let us know about our topics. But we're going to talk about the Golden Knights. Golden Knights are absolutely killing it. They were first in the entirety of the NHL. They're now tied with the Winnipeg Jets and the Washington Capitals for that. I will say that they played a game fewer than both of those teams. But in the Western Conference, the Vegas Golden Knights are just two points or one game behind the Winnipeg Jets. So really on the verge. Plus 32 point differential. So they're absolutely killing it. 18-6 at home, 11-6-3 on the road or away. Killing it. Goals for against goals against, obviously plus 32 makes a big difference. We're seeing a bit of a drop. I think they've lost 2 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They were 8-2 last week, the last time we talked. There's been a couple games played since. So Vegas Golden Knights are still on a tear. They're still doing their thing. You can attribute a couple of these losses or these last 2 losses. They did use their backup goalie. They're trying to be smart and get the rest they need for their top goalie, Aiden Hill. But still, absolutely killing it, and being led by Jack Eichel, who's been absolutely killing it, picking up where Mark Stone usually leads the way, but Mark Stone's kind of taken more of a veteran back seat, and he's on the second line. He's not on the top line anymore, and he's doing a great job of leading the way as well, but Jack Eichel's killing it. Absolutely killing it. Larry B says, I hate the Raiders. You know what? So do I. Love hate. Most importantly, and I shouldn't say hate, I dislike Mark Davis right now. I just really do. I mean, I get that he's trying to make changes. He has Tom Brady doing what he's got to be doing, but he's just the problem, dude. Like Captain Bullcut is the problem. And he's been the problem for 15 years. And here's the thing, dude. Like he's made money hand over fist. People act like he's poor. He's not poor. His franchise went from being worth $970 million in Oakland to recently being valued around $6.8 billion. Not too far. Like I think the third or fourth most valuable franchise in the NFL, which is it's an incredible jump from the bottom of the league to that point. They're the highest charged. I mean, they're the highest price ticket for tickets per game, which is ridiculous considering the game is this team sucked. But I also understand like a lot of teams love to come here and they travel, so there's really no home field advantage. It's like every game's an away game, and it's not going to change until the Raiders start making a change and win. So that's on Mark Davis. Mark Davis shoulders that. He knows that. He wants to win. He's just ass. He doesn't know what he's doing. Unless it's business, he just doesn't know what he's doing. So let's hope Tom Brady does step in and has the final say on this stuff because this has been horrible. But Vegas Golden Knights, we're going to finish up with them. Vegas Golden Knights are 29-12-3, 61 points, and they're on a roll, man. And here's the deal. You're over halfway through the season. We're going to see the All-Star break very soon here. I think that, and this is one thing the Vegas Golden Knights do on a yearly basis. It seems like, with the exception of last year, due to injuries, but previous 6 years, when they were constantly competing for titles, after the All-Star break, they make a move or two, and this team absolutely just shreds. and puts themselves in position to be close to that President's Trophy race. Although, like I've said before, I don't want them to win the President's Trophy because there's a curse, man. Like the last 10 President's Trophy winners in the NHL have been bounced in the first round. Just get away from it. Be the top of the Pacific Division, get the number one seed there. Let Winnipeg or the Washington Capitals get the top seed and or the President's Trophy and watch them get bounced. But yeah, we don't want to be involved. We don't want to be involved with any of that. We're gonna go to a quick break, real quick here. Play a couple drops from our teammates here at IE Sports Radio, and when we get back, we're gonna dive into our Raiders coaching search and GM search. Again, this is going to be a short show, guys. We probably got another 15 minutes, and then I got to get off and feed my child. But we're going to real quick support our teammates, play their drops, and we'll be right back to talk about Raiders here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sport.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Ladies and sitters, welcome back to the break. Big shout out to Tan Rodriguez, the host of the Set Point, resident volleyball expert here on IE Sports Radio, as well as Ralph Calise, one of the best teammates out there, as well as always tuning into the show when he can. Pittsburgh Steeler fan. I feel bad for him because I don't know what's going on with the Steelers, man. Like, listen, they make the playoffs every year, but it just feels like they just haven't been the same. They really haven't. And Mike Tomlin's had an issue finding quality coordinators that can really get them over the hump, and then on top of that, since Ben Roethlisberger left, it just doesn't feel like that team has really had their guy. It's been interesting to see how they played with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields this year, but it just didn't work out. It was an experiment. It wasn't the best way. It's kind of weird how the defense disappeared in the playoff game too. I know Baltimore's elite. Don't get me wrong. I understand Baltimore's elite, and they could very well be a Super Bowl winner this year. But yeah, shout out to Ralph Calise there, the Injury Report, for covering Pittsburgh sports and his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys want to get at the show or get at me, support the show, go to at @CinCity_IESR, follow, like any of the posts that you guys take a look at, get involved, message us, talk shit. I don't care. That's what we do, man. We love sports. It's what we like to do. And I like to talk a ton of shit about our beloved Raiders. And yes, you're reading that banner right. Raiders suck. Like, let's just say what it is, guys. Raiders suck. And they've sucked for 20 years. They've definitely sucked for the last 15 years since Mark Davis took over. And we've been over it 100 times, man, on what the Raiders need to do to get better. And they just find a way to get in their own way, you know. a few years ago when I said, hey, we need to hire Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan if we could, or look at a way to get Mike Tomlin away from the Steelers before things started really going downhill. So do it early before things cost more, because I'm pretty sure unless the Steelers let him go, he's going to cost a lot in draft capital. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a couple second round picks for a guy that just wins every year. My biggest stressor is the Raiders should have made a move and got a quality coach a couple of years ago. They just didn't want to do it. Like Mark Davis was off doing his own thing. That's what Mark Davis does. Mark Davis goes rogue, or he listens to some idiot that has no idea what he's talking about. And then guess what? You get Josh McDaniels, which how well did that go? He was like 9-17 as the head coach of the Raiders. It was a pitiful. It was so bad. The offensive guru and genius, and I pounded the table for him when he first got hired because I'm sitting here thinking like, dude, maybe he learned, maybe he got better. He didn't. He was just utter garbage and killed the culture of the locker room, which was on the up and up following Rich Bisaccia. And maybe Rich Bisaccia should have been hired, but I mean, I think there were options out there that the Raiders didn't want to go with. When Josh McDaniels was fired, you guys heard me last offseason. I understand Antonio Pierce had a hell of a end of the season, but we were subjective to that, right? We were objective of that. We said on this show numerous times, yes, has he earned the respect of the locker room? Sure. Has he earned the respect of the fan base? Absolutely. Totally agree with that. My problem was he was inexperienced. The Raiders needed an experienced coach, a coach that was used to winning, that has won in the past, and he just wasn't that guy. And he proved that this year. Don't get me wrong, he's somewhat of a fall guy. He didn't have a franchise quarterback. Like, how can you totally trust him to win games when you don't have a guy to throw the ball consistently and lead your team down the field? But you did have some talent, and you failed. His offensive hire of Luke Getsy was awful, right? Patrick Graham kind of helped keep things together, and even the defensive statistics were kind of off this year because the offense was so putrid. It just didn't work out. It is what it is. I didn't agree with AP. You guys heard me last year. I was pounding the table for Jim Harbaugh. And then we come to find out that the Raiders never even gave him an interview or requested for an interview. And it sounds like he was interested in the Raiders, the Bears, and the Chargers. Maybe he would have ended up going with the Chargers anyway. But he had a history with the Raiders, and he was expressing interest. And at the time, the Raiders were in position if they needed to draft, move up and get their guy, they would have. Now you're kicking yourself because for 2 straight years, you're sitting here asking yourself, why didn't we draft a specific guy? So last year, why didn't they trade up for Jaden Daniels? Look what he's doing. We pounded the table here for Jaden Daniels. Yes, we also said that it would cost a lot to do it because there were 6 quarterbacks that people really wanted. But Jaden Daniels was the guy. I thought he was the best quarterback prospect last year, followed by Drake May. Both show far more upside than what we're seeing from Caleb Williams right now. Granted, the Bears franchise is probably just as abysmal as the Raiders. I won't give them that much credit because Marky Mark is dog shit. But it is what it is, man. Like Caleb Williams just to me is just he can't play within a system. He's got to improvise. It reminds me of a younger Baker Mayfield. And we know how much he struggled in his first few years in the NFL because he just couldn't play within the structure of the offense. That's not Caleb's strong suit. His strong suit is extending plays and throwing to top recruits in the nation. We'll see what happens, but the Chicago Bears are Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles is Ryan Poles. There's no guarantee that this guy's going to have top talent to scramble and throw to. Plus, everybody in the NFL is just as fast as Caleb. It's the reality, man. Everybody in the NFL is just as fast. So that's why I love Jaden Daniels because I knew he can extend plays, but he's an excellent thrower of the football. And we saw that. And Washington's in the playoffs because 1, they had a head coaching change. 2, they have some solidarity at offensive coordinator. It seems as though Cliff Kingsbury, who the Raiders should have just given a 3rd year, by the way, maybe that saves Antonio Pierce's job. I'm not sure. That's another debacle for another time. Just absolute incompetence by the Raiders. I get that they weren't totally sold on Antonio Pierce. The contracts of the assistants and Antonio Pierce kind of says it, but you have a top play caller in Cliff Kingsbury that you could have just given a 3rd year and you would have had a more productive offense this year. I firmly believe that. But now he's in Washington with a stud, and mum's the word. He's probably going to be a head coach in the next year or so too. It's rough, man. The Raiders just make bad decision after bad decision. That's just their MO. That's what they like to do. So what do we do next? How do we combat that? Well, Mark Davis needs to take a step back. He needs to just shut up and sign some checks. And he's going to be doing that anyway because he's fired like 3 coaches in 5 years. And I think he owes those coaches roughly 70 million, something around that. And again, he's got the money. He's not worried about it. But it's just frustrating. Get it right, dude. Like, you have all these teams that go out and hire these firms to give you advice, and you follow the advice of some dipshit that said Josh McDaniels is the way to go. I'm glad Tom Brady's here. I don't know what he's going to do, but it's one of those things like there was an old Dane Cook special where he was talking about the Obama election, right? And I hate to bring politics, but it was just hilarious, and Comedy's Undefeated. But he was basically like, the country was so desperate, even the most vile human beings in the South, you know who I'm talking about, were like, I think we should see what this guy can do. That's how desperate the country was at that time. Obama was elected. Raiders fans are so desperate, they're like, I think we should see what Tom Brady can do. It's crazy to think. I'm just being real with you guys. Like, we're so desperate, and we've seen so many bad decisions that we're like, hopefully a 7-time Super Bowl champion that's never actually run a franchise can use his connections and bring in some competent football people. That's kind of where Raider Nation's at. We're that bad off. So it seems like Mark Davis is taking a step back. He's letting Tom Brady do his thing. It does seem like, according to reports, that the Raiders are getting support from the league to go after the guy they want. And it seems as things are pointing towards Ben Johnson, which is great. I didn't expect the Raiders to be the team that actually gets Ben Johnson, to be real with you. I knew that we had the money, and that money wouldn't be an object if we really didn't want to go get him. I'm just being real with you folks. I just thought other teams would really just go after him hard. And being the fact that the Raiders don't have a franchise quarterback in play or available or on the team right now that we know of, I just wasn't sure Ben Johnson would really be interested in the Raiders. But based on reports from surrounding team personnel and media around the Raiders, is Ben Johnson was really impressed with the Raiders, the facility. The Raiders were really impressed with Ben Johnson. And most importantly, Tom Brady is really impressed with Ben Johnson. They fired Telesco, who in my opinion didn't really do anything wrong. He had a great draft. He really did. I think he had a great draft. Was the team amazing? No. Did he keep Josh Jacobs? No, but that's a running back thing, man. Like, put it like this. Even if we keep Josh Jacobs and we get to a wild card, does Green Bay paying Josh Jacobs $13 million a year help them? Obviously not, because they're not in the playoffs anymore. So running back by committee and putting out a stronger offensive line is really going to combat that, and keeping drives going, which you need a quality quarterback to do that. So yes, Telesco dropped the ball there, but his top 2 picks were phenomenal. Brock Bowers had the best rookie season out of a tight end ever. Jackson Powers Johnson really came into his own at guard. He's just a mauler, man. It was fun to watch those two play, and I think Telesco did a good job there. You can't miss your first 3 picks, and I don't think he did last year. So I was shocked that he was let go, but when he's let go, it's because you have a candidate at head coach that has a specific person that he wants to work with, and I think the Raiders are willing to make that move and bet, knowing that they can bag that guy and bring those 2 as a package deal. So to me, signs are pointing towards Ben Johnson. But hold up, Jed Hughes has been hired as a councilman or as counsel to Tom Brady. He's been well renowned. Jed Hughes is somebody who helped hire Pete Carroll in 2013 for the Seattle Seahawks. He helped hire John Schneider for the Seattle Seahawks. And as we know, guys, for a good time period, Jed Hughes and the Seattle Seahawks and John Schneider and Pete Carroll had a run, man. And if we're being honest, Pete Carroll should have had 2 Super Bowl rings if he wouldn't have been a dumbass and just ran Marshawn Lynch at the 1-yard line, half-yard line. The best back in football, the strongest, best short yardage back in football behind the best offensive line in football with the best defensive supporting cast you've probably seen in the last 20 years in the Seahawks, the Legion of Boom. All he had to do was hand the ball to Marshawn 2 straight times, and they probably win that second Super Bowl ring. Jed Hughes is now a part of the council for Mark Davis and Tom Brady. Oh, and Richard Seymour. Richard Seymour is also a minority owner, which is phenomenal because Richard Seymour used to be a Raider. He loved playing for the Raiders. He came here when he was leaving his prime. He was paid well, and I think he loved Mark Davis. I think he loved Al Davis, and he just liked the Raider mystique in general. So it's nice to have him back. But Richard Seymour was one of the smartest defensive linemen in the NFL during his time. You have Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback. I shouldn't say greatest quarterback, because you guys know my opinion. I've said this before. I think Peyton Manning was the greatest quarterback to ever play. Some folks are going to disagree with it. That's fine. It's cool. I just think Peyton Manning changed the game, especially at the line of scrimmage in the NFL. He was just phenomenal. Yes, he only won 2 Super Bowl rings. He could have won more. Just imagine, man, if Peyton would have been on the field with Belichick. He would have won 6 rings too. I mean, let's be real. Tom Brady is the winningest quarterback of all time and has a shitload of respect from me, especially lately, because he seems like just a really good dude. Even though you wanted to hate him in a Patriots uniform, he just seems like a really good dude. But to me, Peyton Manning was the greatest. Tom Brady was the winningest, and sometimes that's what matters most. So we'll see what happens as far as the coaching hire is concerned, but don't count out Pete Carroll. If you guys remember last week, my top 3 were Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, and Ben Johnson. And the only reason why Ben Johnson, who is the hottest head coaching candidate out there right now, was number 3 is he's young. He's never been a head coach before. So he doesn't have experience that I know of building culture. He doesn't have a track record that we know of building culture, which is something that the Raiders sorely need right now. I thought that Mike Vrabel would come in. He'd be no nonsense. Pete Carroll could come in. Everywhere Pete Carroll goes, they win. Everywhere Pete Carroll goes, they establish a competitive and accountable. Do you guys hear that? Accountability. We don't hear that at the Raiders very often, just being honest. Accountable culture, a competitive, accountable culture, which leads to winning. And again, he should have been a 2-time Super Bowl winner for the Seahawks. All he had to do was hand it to Marshawn. And I think that's a decision he'll regret for the rest of his life. He'll be a Super Bowl winning coach, but his gravestone will say, didn't hand it to Marshawn. I'm just kidding. That won't happen. But regardless, just know that Pete Carroll's not out of the running. The same guy that hired Pete Carroll in 2013 with John Schneider for the Seattle Seahawks is now advising Tom Brady and Mark Davis. If they can land Ben Johnson, I think they do. I really do. I think if they can land Ben Johnson, they do. And Ben Johnson will probably get paid like $15 million a year. Like they'll open the bag for this guy but just look at all the amenities that the Raiders have. You still have a star pass rusher. He could be traded. There's rumors of that. If you want to get the assets to go after that franchise quarterback, it kind of makes sense. You could trade him and then trade up for your guy. I don't think either Shedeur or Cam Ward are the guy that you want to trade up for. So we might be another year away. But you have that franchise pass rusher. You're going to be at number 6 at this point? Travis Hunter or the kid out of Penn State could fall to you. So one, you could get a bookend corner that could be phenomenal for 10 years to go alongside Bennett, Jacorian Bennett, who played out of his mind, leaving Nate Hobbs in the slot if they can bring him back. I'm not sure what's going to happen to Jones. He could stay. Maybe he doesn't, being that AP's gone. But I think he signed an extension this past year. So there's a possibility he stays on. At that moment, you have 4 really good corners on your team, which is great because the Raiders don't normally have that. Trayvon Moehrig, still a really good safety. We didn't get to see the winner, the winner of the best safety in the nation, Trey. We didn't get to see him from Air Force last year much at all, but hopefully we can see him more often because either way, you have a defense that's in place. Wilkins will be back. If you trade Max Crosby, you probably have 2 first-round picks, but you don't have to. You don't have to trade him right now because I don't think Shedeur and Cam are the guys you trade for, to be honest. If it was any time, it would have been last year for Jaden Daniels. So that's kind of where the Raiders are at. Like, they're in a hard place. Ben Johnson's probably going to have to tell these guys, like, I need patience if I'm coming on. You can't do what you've been doing for the last 5 years. To be fair, Josh McDaniels just wore people the wrong way and he wasn't winning. And AP was just inexperienced. Again, a fall guy. I don't think that was Tom Brady's guy once he was hired on. You knew some changes were going to be made. So Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll, I think, are the two guys that are the two head honchos, the guys that I think the Raiders are really going to make a play on. Ben Johnson seems to be in the lead, but there's a really good chance that Pete Carroll still ends up here. I'm happy with either one. I'm actually more intrigued with Ben Johnson, more comforted by Pete Carroll, if that makes sense, because Pete Carroll, again, has a track record of winning football games and developing competitive and accountable cultures. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. Not to mention the only real drawback on Pete Carroll right now is he's 74. He's 74. But Pete Carroll's always had a ton of energy. So as long as he doesn't go Joe Biden on us, we're fine. We're going to be a competitive team in no time. I do believe the Raiders, if they can, are going to lean towards Ben. That's why I say he's the top candidate. He's been the top candidate in this offseason, the last 2 off seasons, realistically. And I think he's been a coach that every team has wanted to headhunt. It would be crazy if the Raiders could end up with him. That just kind of tells you the cachet that Tom Brady brings and the confidence that people have that he's going to make the right decisions and help make this franchise a winning franchise. It'd be nice. It'd be wonderful. We have the resources. You have the money. God knows you have the money considering you're sold out every game and half of those seats aren't even Raiders fans. And you charge the highest ticket price. So a lot of positivity there. 2 GM candidates are on the docket to essentially be brought in to get interviewed. John Eric Sullivan from the Green Bay Packers. He's the director of college scouting. Last time we hired a Green Bay Packer was Reggie McKenzie, and it didn't turn out too bad. Did he miss on the second round a couple times? Yeah, he was absolutely horrible in the second round, actually. History was just awful in the second round. Jihad Ward, terrible pick. I think he's still playing in the league, but he was awful for the Raiders. It is what it is. I'm just saying, like, that's what I think of when I think of Reggie McKenzie. It sounds like he's getting interviewed, by the way, by the Titans. So hopefully he's grown and he gets a second chance because he was a good dude. I think he did a good job. It just so happens that Jack Del Rio was let go, John Gruden was hired, and Reggie McKenzie's services were no longer needed. He didn't do a bad job. He just didn't do a great job in the draft. Otherwise, he built some winning teams, by the way. Reggie McKenzie did a pretty good job of drafting some guys. So Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, Derek Carr, Gabe Jackson. I mean, come on, dude. He did a good job in some rights. But he had a lot of misses too. So I think that's most drafts. It just feels like it's more glaring with the Raiders. Always more glaring with the Raiders. So John Eric Sullivan is a director of college scouting. He is somebody that I think that the Raiders are going to look into. He's 47. He's young. He's probably somebody that a guy like Ben Johnson is saying, yeah, I think that's the way I want to go. It is what it is. I would like to see if we could. I would like to see a more experienced GM. But I think the more experienced GMs as of right now, like a Telesco would have been fine. But again, you're keeping Telesco hoping that he can work with the new head coach instead of just starting anew. And that just seems to be the theme. So we're going to end up seeing John Eric Sullivan. The other one I saw was the Steelers executive, Sheldon White. The Steelers have done an excellent job in the draft the last few years, and he is getting nods as somebody that's helped point the new GM of the Steelers and Mike Tomlin in the right direction of picking guys. If I'm going to go with anybody, it'd probably be this guy, right? If Ben Johnson wants to sign off on Sheldon White, I'm for it. He's very well respected. I think the Steelers are trying to keep him. They're going to have a hard time. But he's director of pro personnel. He's going to know what to do. He's been around front offices for years. White to me sounds like the pick because he's a pro personnel side, so he understands how to deal with professional athletes. He understands how to run a professional personnel department. I like that. He's great in free agency evaluations because it feels like they always bring in decent free agents. And even though Russell Wilson and Justin Fields didn't work out, let's think about this real quick. They were still great free agent acquisitions for their value. And this guy was a huge reason that they came in because he scouted that, evaluated it. He was able to talk to the current GM and say, hey, we can get these guys on a steal. Let's bring them both in. I think they had probably, I don't know, the fifth most talented quarterback room because you had those two guys and they paid the least amount, I think, in the entirety of the NFL with the exception of the Raiders. Actually, I think they paid less than the Raiders did for Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell for those two talented guys. And honestly, the Raiders would have killed for Justin Fields this year. I can't guarantee he would have done well because Luke Getz, he's cheeks. But yeah, it might have made a difference. So if I was to pick between the two, it's Sheldon White for sure. We missed out on our candidates last year. So I'm hoping they really go after a well-respected member. And I'm hoping that a gentleman like Sheldon White, also African-American, it'd be great to see another African-American GM in the NFL. Nobody better to evaluate. Seriously, this guy is getting a ton of well-respected opinions about him, and I'd like to see him get a shot if he can work well with Ben Johnson, if he can work well with Pete Carroll. Those are the front runners for me, man. I would love to see that. I think the Raiders would be a better team with either one of those choices. And I really thought the Raiders can build that way. They have this now. Just don't miss in the draft. Don't miss in the draft. You have, once some things are reworked, you're going to see close to $100 million in cap space. If you're a new head coach and GM coming in, that's a very attractive amount of money in cap that you can use to rebuild this team very quickly. The problem is the quarterback position, and it'll be interesting to see how free agency shakes out. We're going to do some more research on that and bring more to the show here in the coming weeks, talking about free agency and the draft. But that's kind of where we're leaning, guys. Like, get your head coaching candidate kind of squared away. Make sure that head coaching candidate can work with one of these two GMs and try to rebuild with the assets you have. Again, a top 10 pick is great. A top 10 pick is amazing. And the Raiders are used to picking top 10. I don't know if Tyree Wilson was the right way to go. He could end up being great. We don't know. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to keep Patrick Graham. Everything's going to end up starting over, unfortunately. But that's what we're used to as Raiders fans, unfortunately. Like, as long as Mark Davis is going to be here, unless Tom Brady absolutely hits it out of the park, we could be starting over all the time. I'm hoping Ben Johnson learned a ton from Dan Campbell, because from my understanding, he's the best leader that a lot of players have even ever played for. They say it numerous times. Jared Goff has gone to bat for that man 100 times. And look at what the Detroit Lions have done. I hope Ben Johnson, it really rubbed off on Ben Johnson. He can bring that flair to the Raiders because we need it, man. We need that grit. We need to be willing to bite some kneecaps. And I hope he adopts that mentality. Thank you for tuning in, folks. 155, man. We're averaging 150 viewers. This is awesome. Like, share, go to our Twitters, guys. At @SinCity_ISR. Follow, like. Make sure you're keeping track of the show. We're on every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It was a little late today because Larry V is showing me a few tricks of the trade to make sure this is a more streamlined show. As always, folks, you guys know how to reach out to me at @SinCity_ISR, at Kayle_Henderson. We talk all things Vegas sports. If you guys want to talk Raiders, reach out, DM me, whatever you want to do, because I am really intrigued to see what the Raiders do this offseason. And in my opinion, this is probably the most important offseason since Mark Davis took over. We said that 2 years ago. It didn't work out. This, to me, is like almost a make or break because the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers have all gotten better, and the Raiders got to do something drastic to compete in this division. This is the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. As always, folks, love, peace, and hair grease.